Vexterra adjusted her crystalline observation matrix, its faceted surface catching the stark lighting of Deep Station Gamma's medical bay. As the collective's foremost expert on xenosociology, she had spent 3 cycles studying the intricacies of human social structures. Yet nothing in her extensive research had prepared her for what she was witnessing. Warning: multiple casualties incoming. Radiation exposure. ETA 3 minutes. The station's AI announced with characteristic precision. Through her matrix, Vexterra watched as the medical bay transformed. The previously orderly space erupted into controlled chaos, but it wasn't the activity that caught her attention. It was the sudden shift in social dynamics. A human female emerged from her office, wearing nothing more elaborate than white garments with a simple insignia. Dr. Emma Torres, Chief of Emergency Medicine. No rank markers, no authority crystals, no neural command implants. By all measurable standards, this human should have possessed minimal influence in the station's rigid command structure. Yet when she spoke, everyone listened. Clear bays 3 through 7. I want radiation protocols in place. Commander Vixthal, your security team needs to clear this area immediately. Dr. Torres's voice carried no artificial amplification, no psychic enhancement, just calm authority. Vexterra's sensors nearly overloaded as she observed Commander Vexthal, a 4th-tier security director of the collective. Immediately comply. According to every protocol she knew, this was impossible. The commander's neural implants alone should have prevented him from taking orders from an unranked individual. Fascinating, Vexterra whispered to her recording crystal. Subject demonstrates authority without conventional power markers. Note: investigate possible pheromone influence. The casualties arrived in a rush of motion and urgency. 6 maintenance workers, 3 human and 3 collective, caught in a radiation leak during routine repairs. Their bodies bore the distinctive marks of acute radiation exposure. Dr. Torres moved among them with practiced efficiency. Bay 3, start chelation therapy on the humans. Bay 5, prepare crystalline matrix restoration for the collective workers. No one argues, no one questions. They move. Vexterra's auxiliary processing nodes struggled to categorize what she was seeing. In collective society, authority flowed from the central command through neural networks, each tire precisely calibrated. Yet here was this human, operating completely outside those structures. Dr. Torres, a young medical technician, called out, "The collective workers' crystal matrices are degrading faster than expected." The doctor didn't hesitate. Switch to Protocol Lambda. We'll adapt their treatment based on the human response patterns. She turned to Commander Vexthal, who had remained nearby despite his earlier dismissal. "Commander, I need emergency authorization to use experimental human medical protocols on your people." Vexterra's sensors recorded the unprecedented event that followed. Commander Vixthal, without consulting Central Command, simply nodded. "Granted, Doctor. Save them." The next 6 hours became a blur of activity that defied every social model in Vexterra's database. Dr. Torres moved between patients, adjusting treatments, combining human and collective medical techniques in ways that had never been documented. She issued orders to beings technically her superior in every measurable hierarchy, and they obeyed without question. When the crisis finally passed, all 6 patients stabilized. Vexterra found herself face to face with Dr. Torres in the now quiet medical bay. "You've been watching us all day," Torres said, her voice showing signs of fatigue, but maintaining that same quiet authority. "I recognize a researcher when I see one. What's your field?" "Xenosociology," Vexterra replied, her translation crystal humming. "I study command structures and social hierarchies." "Dr. Torres, your position confounds me. You hold no formal rank, yet everyone listens." Torres smiled, a human expression Vexterra had learned to recognize as indicating amusement. "That's not authority you're seeing. It's trust. In a crisis, rank matters less than knowing who can save your life." Vexterra's crystal matrix sparkled as it processed this concept. But how is such trust quantified? Measured? Distributed through the command structure? It isn't. Torres replied, removing her surgical garments. It's earned, patient by patient, crisis by crisis, day by day. She paused, studying Vexterra with an intensity that made her sensor arrays tingle. Your people rely on neural networks and crystalline matrices to maintain order. We humans, we've learned that some forms of authority can't be programmed or imposed. They have to be built on something more fundamental. As Vexterra prepared her initial report for the collective's xenosociology division, she found her usual precise language failing her. How could she explain a system of authority based not on measurable quantum states or neural programming, but on something as indefinable as trust? In the end, she wrote simply, human medical authority represents a paradigm that defies conventional hierarchical analysis. Further study essential. Traditional models of social control may require significant revision. She attached her sensor logs from the day's events, knowing they would cause as much confusion among her superiors as they had in her own processors. But as she watched Dr. Torres begin her next shift, calmly preparing for whatever new crisis might emerge, Vexterra realized she had witnessed something that might forever change how the collective understood authority. The humans had achieved something her people had never considered possible: power without programming, authority without enforcement, leadership without hierarchy. And somehow, it worked better than anything the collective had designed. The emergency alert pierced through Deep Station Gamma's habitation ring at 300 station time. Vexterra's sensors registered the massive power surge seconds before the station's automated systems began their warning cycle. Multiple explosions detected in engineering section Delta. Structural integrity compromised. Gravity systems failing. From her observation post, Vexterra watched as both human and collective emergency protocols activated simultaneously and immediately began conflicting with each other. The collective's crystalline response matrix pulsed with predetermined commands: seal all compartments, protect critical systems, minimize resource loss. The human emergency protocols prioritized differently: evacuate personnel, establish triage centers, prepare for casualties. The station's gravitational field fluctuated wildly, sending equipment floating in random directions. Through it all, Vexterra maintained her focus on the medical bay, where Dr. Torres was already in motion. Lock down all loose equipment, Torres called out, her voice steady despite the chaos. Activate magnetic tethers. I want every med team prepped for zero-G operations. Commander Vexthel's voice crackled over the station's comm system. All non-essential personnel must evacuate immediately. Medical bay will be sealed as per collective crisis protocols. Belay that order. Dr. Torres' response was immediate and firm. We're not sealing anything. This is now an emergency medical command center. Vexterra's sensors detected the spike in neural activity among the collective staff, their programmed responses conflicting with the human doctor's orders. Commander Vexithel materialized in the medical bay, his crystalline exoskeleton glowing with emergency authority patterns. Dr. Torres, the protocols are clear. In a station-wide emergency. Your protocols weren't written for this scenario. Torres interrupted, already helping her team secure floating medical equipment. We have at least 30 people trapped in engineering Delta. They'll need immediate medical attention, and this is the closest facility. The structural integrity has been assessed by my team. Torres pulled up a holographic display, showing real-time structural analysis. We've got enough reinforcement here to handle it. What we don't have is time to debate. The first casualties arrived as if to punctuate her point. 3 engineers, 2 human, 1 collective, their bodies bearing the distinctive marks of plasma burns and decompression trauma. Behind them floated more victims, suspended in zero-G, their conditions varying from critical to stable. Vexterra watched in fascination as Dr. Torres orchestrated what could only be described as a zero-gravity ballet of emergency medicine. Human and collective medical staff moved in perfect synchronization, adapting to the changing gravitational field as if they trained for this specific scenario. Crystalline matrix degradation in collective casualties, one of the alien medical technicians reported. Standard protocols are failing. Torres pushed herself across the bay, expertly using handholds to navigate the Zerog environment. Their matrix is adapting to the gravity fluctuations. We need to stabilize it before attempting repairs. She turned to Commander Vexful. Commander, I need emergency authorization to attempt an experimental procedure. We're going to use modified human stem cell therapy to stabilize their crystalline matrices. Vexful's exoskeleton pulsed with uncertainty patterns. That violates at least 7 collective medical protocols. And following those protocols will result in the death of your people, Torres countered. Choose. Vexterra's sensors recorded the moment of decision, the precise second when programmed authority gave way to earned trust. Commander Vexful's authorization came without further debate. The next 12 hours became a lesson in human adaptability. Dr. Torres and her team worked tirelessly, combining human and collective medical techniques in ways that defied conventional practice. They stabilized critical patients while floating in zero, performed complex procedures as gravity randomly shifted, and somehow maintained order in what should have been chaos. When station engineers finally restored gravitational control, 28 of the 30 trapped crew members were alive and stable. The 2 who didn't make it had been dead before they reached medical bay. In the aftermath, Vexterra found herself composing another report to the collective's Xenosociology division. She included detailed sensor logs of how the human medical team had operated outside normal parameters, adapted to impossible conditions, and saved lives that collective protocols would have written off as unsalvageable. But it was Dr. Torres's final conversation with Commander Vexful that Vexterra marked as most significant for her report. Your people's medical protocols, Vexful said, his exoskeleton still showing stress patterns. They're not really protocols at all, are they? Torres smiled that same tired smile Vexterra had noted before. They're guidelines, Commander. Frameworks built on experience and knowledge. But in medicine, like in life, sometimes you have to know when to break the rules to save what matters. How do you know? Vexful asked. Without proper programming, without clear hierarchies, how do you know when to follow protocol and when to break it? That, Torres said, checking the readings on a nearby patient, is what all those years of training are for. Not to learn the rules, but to learn when they don't apply. As Vexterra concluded her report, she added a personal observation. Human medical authority continues to defy conventional analysis. However, its effectiveness cannot be disputed. Recommend immediate review of collective emergency protocols to incorporate human adaptive response methodologies. She knew the recommendation would cause controversy among her superiors, but as she watched Dr. Torres begin treating her next patient, Vexterra understood that some truths transcended conventional hierarchy, and the humans had mastered them long ago. The first cases appeared in the lower levels of Deep Station Gamma. 3 collective workers reported unusual crystalline degradation patterns. Within hours, 5 humans in the same sector developed symptoms that defied standard medical scans. By the end of the first day, Dr. Torres had declared a medical emergency that would test the limits of both human and collective medical knowledge. Vexterra's sensors worked overtime, recording the rapid evolution of the crisis. The illness seemed to bridge the biological gap between humans and the collective, affecting organic tissue and crystalline matrices alike, something that should have been impossible. Quarantine protocols are now in effect, Dr. Torres announced, her voice carrying through the station's communication systems. All personnel in sectors 7 through 12 are to remain in place until further notice. The response was immediate. Collective High Commander Zexfor's holographic form materialized in the medical bay, his crystalline pattern radiating authority. Dr. Torres, you have no authority to quarantine collective citizens. Our protocols. Your protocols, Torres interrupted, not even looking up from her diagnostic screen, don't account for a pathogen that affects both species. This is now a joint medical crisis. Vexterra watched the power dynamic shift in real time. High Commander HFY, with his centuries of programming and authority, faced off against a human doctor whose only weapons were knowledge and conviction. "Show me," HFY demanded. Torres pulled up a holographic display, showing the molecular structure of the pathogen. "It's using collective crystalline patterns to bridge the gap between our species. Your people's matrices are degrading, while our organic tissues are crystallizing. If we don't contain this now, we could lose the entire station." The medical bay had transformed into a research center. Human doctors worked alongside collective scientists, their traditional hierarchies forgotten in the face of this unprecedented threat. Dr. Torres moved between teams, coordinating efforts, suggesting connections that neither species would have seen alone. "We need to synthesize a treatment that works on both biological and crystalline structures," Torres explained to the combined research team. "Something that can stabilize the transformation process without destroying either system." High Commander HFY's hologram watched the proceedings with increasing agitation. "The collective has protocols for handling unknown pathogens. We should evacuate our citizens immediately and spread this to other stations," Torres challenged. "Commander, this pathogen is proving that our species are more connected than we thought. We either solve this together, or we both fall." Vexterra's sensors captured the moment of transformation in the collective leadership. The rigid patterns of authority began to bend, adapt, evolve. High Commander HFY's crystalline structure shifted to a frequency Vexterra had never observed before: acceptance of human wisdom. The next 72 hours became a marathon of innovation. Dr. Torres led teams in developing a hybrid treatment protocol, combining human stem cell therapy with collective crystal harmonics. They tested, failed, adjusted, and tested again. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young human medical resident noticed that the pathogen's behavior mimicked the quantum entanglement patterns used in collective neural networks. Dr. Torres immediately seized on this observation. "It's not just attacking us," she explained to the combined medical team. "It's trying to create a bridge between our species. We don't need to fight it. We need to guide it." The treatment they developed was revolutionary, a controlled version of the pathogen's own bridging mechanism, using human immune responses to stabilize collective matrices and collective harmonic patterns to protect human tissue. As the crisis passed and the quarantine lifted, Vexterra found herself recording the most significant observation of her career. The incident had revealed more than just medical innovation. It had demonstrated the true power of human adaptive authority. "The human response to this crisis," she wrote in her report, "demonstrates a form of authority our species had never considered. They lead not through programming or hierarchy, but through the ability to adapt, to see connections, and to inspire others to follow their vision." In the aftermath, she observed a final conversation between Dr. Torres and High Commander HFY that would reshape collective understanding of human authority. "Your methods are unconventional," HFY admitted, his hologram showing patterns of respect previously reserved for collective leaders. "But effective. How do you maintain order without proper command structures?" Torres smiled, exhaustion evident in her features but pride in her eyes. "Structure isn't about controlling people, Commander. It's about creating an environment where everyone can contribute their best. Sometimes the best ideas come from the newest voice in the room." Vexterra added a personal notation to her report. "Human medical authority represents not just a different approach to leadership, but a fundamentally different understanding of what authority means. They have achieved something we never thought possible: leadership that strengthens rather than constrains, that adapts rather than controls." As she watched Dr. Torres begin training both human and collective medical staff in the new hybrid protocols, Vexterra understood that she was witnessing not just the evolution of medical science, but the evolution of authority itself. The order came directly from the collective central command. All medical facilities will operate under pure collective protocols effective immediately. Human medical practices are to be suspended pending review. Vextera's sensors registered the spike in tension throughout Deep Station Gamma's medical bay as Dr. Torres read the directive on her holoscreen. The human doctor's expression remained neutral, but her vital signs indicated a complex mix of emotions that fascinated the xenosociologist. "Interesting timing," Torres murmured, continuing to treat a patient whose hybrid human collective physiology was a direct result of their recent plague crisis, right when we're learning the most about integrating our medical knowledge. The collective's new overseer, High Administrator Kexpol, materialized in the medical bay, his crystalline structure radiating authority patterns that would have immediately subdued any collective citizen. "Dr. Torres, you will transfer all hybrid treatment protocols to collective medical staff immediately." Torres didn't even look up from her patient. No. Vextera's recording crystals nearly overloaded at the simplicity and firmness of that single word. In all her studies of human behavior, she had never witnessed such direct defiance of clear authority. "This is not a request, Doctor." Kexpol's hologram pulsed with warning frequencies. "This is a direct order from Central Command, and I'm giving you a direct medical assessment," Torres replied, finally turning to face the hologram. "These hybrid treatments require understanding of both human and collective physiology. Your medical staff isn't ready to handle them alone. Neither are mine. We need to work together." The medical bay had gone silent, both human and collective staff watching the confrontation. Vextera noted how the humans showed no sign of the neural compliance that would have automatically affected collective citizens in the presence of such high authority. "You forget your place, Doctor." Kexpol's voice carried harmonics designed to enforce compliance. "The collective has managed its medical facilities for millennia without human interference. And in the past month, we've made more progress together than either of our species made in centuries alone," Torres countered. She pulled up a holographic display showing patient recovery rates. "Look at these numbers. Every hybrid case we've treated using combined protocols has shown better results than traditional methods from either species. Protocols exist for a reason. People exist for a reason," Torres interrupted, her voice carrying that quiet authority that had first caught Vextera's attention. "Protocols are tools, not chains. When they help us save lives, we use them. When they get in the way, we adapt." The tension in the medical bay reached critical levels as Kexpol's hologram advanced toward Torres. "You will comply, or—" The emergency alert cut through the confrontation. "Multiple casualties incoming. Mining accident in Sector 14. Hybrid physiology cases." Torres was already moving. "Everyone to their stations. Standard hybrid protocols remain in effect." She turned to Kexpol. "You can either help us save lives, or you can stand there and watch us do it anyway. Your choice." The casualties arrived in waves. Miners caught in a crystalline gas leak, their bodies showing signs of rapid physiological changes similar to the plague's effects. Human tissue crystallizing, collective matrices adopting organic patterns. They were perfect examples of why the hybrid protocols had been developed. Vextera watched in fascination as Dr. Torres orchestrated the emergency response. Human and collective medical staff worked in seamless coordination, applying treatments that defied traditional classifications. They weren't following human protocols or collective procedures. They were creating something new with every patient. High Administrator Kexpol observed as well, his hologram's patterns showing increasing disturbance as the hybrid treatments proved their effectiveness again and again. When the crisis passed, 12 hours later, every patient was stable. "Your authority," Kexpol finally said, addressing Torres, "comes from competence, not command." Torres nodded, checking the vitals of her last patient. "Authority isn't given, Administrator. It's earned. Every life we save, every crisis we manage, every innovation we create, that's what builds real authority. The collective has never encountered such a concept," Kexpol admitted, his hologram showing patterns Vextera had never seen before, uncertainty mixed with respect. "Maybe it's time you did," Torres suggested. "Your people have incredible medical knowledge. centuries of research and development. Imagine what we could achieve if we stopped fighting about who's in charge and focused on working together. Vextera's report to the Xenosociology Division that day was her most controversial yet. Human medical authority represents not a challenge to collective hierarchy, but an evolution of it. They have demonstrated that true authority flows not from position or programming, but from the ability to adapt, innovate, and serve others. She watched as Kexpol's hologram faded away, leaving behind a modified directive. The hybrid protocols would continue under joint human collective supervision. It was a small change in policy, but a revolutionary shift in understanding. Dr. Torres simply went back to work, showing no sign that she had just won a major political victory. But Vextera knew she had witnessed something unprecedented. The moment when earned authority proved stronger than programmed power, when human adaptability overcame alien rigidity, and when two species began to learn from each other's strengths. 1 year after the initial observation of human medical authority on Deep Station Gamma, Vextera stood before the collective High Council, her crystalline matrix humming with the significance of her final report. The chamber, filled with the holographic forms of the most powerful beings in collective society, waited in uncharacteristic silence. "Distinguished council members," she began, "my extended study of human medical authority has led to conclusions that will fundamentally change our understanding of both species." The massive holographic displays activated, showing footage from the past year. Dr. Torres during the initial crisis, the plague response, the mining accident, and dozens of smaller moments where human medical authority had proven its worth. When I began this study, we believed authority could only exist through programming, hierarchy, and strict protocols. The humans have shown us a different path. High Administrator Kexpol, now a supporter of human collective cooperation, spoke first. "Present your primary findings, Observer Vextera." She activated her core memory crystal, projecting a series of data points that filled the chamber. In 1 year of integrated operations, Deep Station Gamma's medical bay has achieved a 47% increase in treatment success rates. Mortality rates have decreased by 62%. Most significantly, we have documented 89 new medical procedures that combine human and collective methodologies. The council chamber resonated with the harmonic frequencies of surprise and disbelief. These results defied all previous models of medical efficiency. But the true revelation, Vextera continued, isn't in the numbers, it's in the methodology. She displayed footage of Dr. Torres, training a mixed team of human and collective medical staff. Humans have developed a form of authority based not on position, but on proven ability. Not on programming, but on adaptability. Not on control, but on trust. She showed scenes from recent emergencies where collective medical staff had begun displaying human-like adaptability, while human doctors incorporated collective precision into their treatments. The integration was producing results that neither species could have achieved alone. Dr. Torres, Vextera explained, never once used programmed commands or hierarchical authority to achieve these results. Instead, she demonstrated a principle our species had never considered. Authority can be earned through competence, maintained through results, and strengthened through trust. The council chamber filled with discussion frequencies as members debated the implications. Finally, the High Council leader spoke. "Your recommendation, Observer." Vextera's crystal matrix pulsed with certainty. Implementation of human medical authority principles throughout the collective medical system, not as a replacement for our methods, but as an evolution of them. She displayed her final piece of evidence, a recent emergency where a collective medical officer had improvised a treatment protocol, combining human and collective techniques without waiting for authorization. The patient had survived against all statistical probability. "We are already changing," Vextera concluded. "The question is not whether to adapt, but how quickly we can learn from what the humans have shown us." The council chamber resonated with deliberation frequencies for several minutes before the High Council leader spoke again. "Your observations have merit, Observer Vextera. But tell us, what of the risks? What of the potential for chaos if our carefully maintained hierarchies begin to evolve? With respect, Council Leader Vexterra responded, "Chaos is what we feared when we first encountered human medical authority. What we found instead was a different kind of order, one based on competence, adaptation, and mutual trust. It's not chaos, it's evolution." She showed one final scene. Dr. Torres and her mixed human collective team responding to a recent crisis. There was no visible hierarchy, no programmed responses, just seamless cooperation between two species working toward a common goal. "The humans have shown us that true authority doesn't come from controlling others," Vexterra concluded. "It comes from earning their trust and helping them achieve their best. This is not a weakness in their system, it is its greatest strength." The Council's decision was unprecedented. Full integration of human medical authority principles into collective medical training. Dr. Torres would oversee the development of a new hybrid medical academy on Deep Station Gamma, training both species in combined methodologies. In her final report, Vexterra added a personal observation. "The humans never sought to impose their authority system on us. They simply demonstrated its effectiveness until we could no longer ignore the results. In doing so, they taught us perhaps the most important lesson of all, that true authority is not taken or given, but earned through actions that benefit others." As she watched Dr. Torres begin another shift in the now integrated medical bay, Vexterra realized that she had documented more than just the evolution of medical practices. She had witnessed the beginning of a fundamental change in how two species understood power, authority, and leadership. The humans had shown them a new way, not through force or programming, but through quiet competence and earned trust. And in doing so, they had changed the collective forever.